I know what you're thinking. What in the gosh darn is Bits and Bombs? Bits and Bombs is a podcast deep diving into what it takes to do stand-up from a different comedian every episode. Follow new open micer Peter Doms in his journey to be an okay comic.
Suraj, Kolarkar.
That's me.
Hell yeah.
Very good.
When was your first gig?
So my first gig was November 26th, 2016, I believe.
Oh, wait. Fuck. I think I just picked up I didn't press record on the video.
Oh, that's all right.
Sick. Cool. The video is recording.
Yeah, I'm literally checking the calendar because I believe it was 2016. November. Do you put your whole life in your Google Calendar?
If I remember to, I do.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll be like, someone will mention something.
Yeah.
And then I quickly go to like, oh, you free this? And I'll check my calendar.
Yeah.
But then I realize later that I'm a fucking, like I'll book gigs and stuff, but sometimes I just don't add it to my calendar.
Yeah.
And I get a message that week, add to a group chat. And I'm like, fuck, I forgot about this. So I try to where I remember.
Yeah.
I'm bad at adding things to calendars.
Yeah, I just live by my calendar. If I make any meeting appointment. So, yeah, it was November 26th, 2016 that I started stand-up. Well, I did my first spot then. I didn't do my second spot until, like, over 6 months after that. Mm-hmm. I did one spot, then I went to India for a holiday.
Yeah.
But before I did that first spot, when like in the build up to wanting to do stand up, for me, like it was something in the back of my mind that was like cooking away. Like I want to try this, but it felt so like separated from reality. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
So then eventually I signed up for a spot, and then the week before I went to the venue to watch the show just to get a feel of what it's like. And that was the first open mic I'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. And a few comics went on, and then this guy went on, I don't know his name, and he had a 5-minute spot. For the first 4 minutes, he's just bombing, right? And that happens.
Yeah.
He's just bombing, and then he turns on the crowd. So he starts going, you guys don't know what you're talking. I'm smarter than you guys. I've got an accounting degree and like all that kind of stuff. Like he fully turns on them. Oh, that doesn't go well either. And then eventually he's bombing so much, one of the guys in the front row just leans back and goes, enough. And everyone kind of silently agreed with it. Like, that was the most devastating heckle. Not him, like, swearing at him or anything, just being like, enough. Like, just putting him out of his misery, just old yellering him on the stage right there.
That's a fucking mutiny.
Yeah, it was brutal. And so then I went home and I canceled the gig I had coming up. I was like, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
That looked brutal. That was, and then I didn't sign up for a gig for another 6 months. Shit. And then 6 months later, I signed up for an open mic and then went on. But yeah, that added a 6-month delay to me thinking about doing it.
Wow. Because I guess it can go one of two ways. Because it can either go, oh, this is easy. If this guy can get up, I can get up. But obviously, it was such a brutal thing. It was kind of like, I don't want that to go through that.
No, I wasn't ready for that. It's like watching someone get hit by a train and then being asked to stand on the train tracks. I was like, I'm
you
good.
next, yeah.
Yeah, no thank you. And then the first place I went on was a place called Chambers Hotel or something, a Saturday night open mic that was being run by Sit Down back in the day. Mm-hmm. Embassy Chambers, something it was called. And it was fun. I was halfway through the lineup or something like that, and I was talking to people backstage, and I was saying, don't film it, or someone was like, hey, it's your first time, film it, let's record it. I was like, please don't do that. And then I went on, and I was pretty nervous, and my left knee was like trembling, right? Mm-hmm. Like it couldn't have the weight of my body on it. And at the time, I was like 25 kilos lighter, so there wasn't as much weight to carry. But then after a few gags, like one of them went kind of okay, and it got a laugh, and then that kind of calmed me down. And then as a whole, the set went pretty okay, pretty good. Like for the first time, very excited. And then I came off stage and I was like, oh man, that went surprisingly well. I can't believe I told those guys not to film it. And then one of the guys was like, I filmed it anyway. I was like,
oh, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then when I watched it back, my mic technique was so bad. Like I was talking like this. Because you've never held a mic in your life. Yep. You don't realize how much you talk with your hands. Yep. And so I was talking with both hands. And it was brutal. Then I had to slowly learn. But because I was so loud and it was a small room, it didn't matter that I wasn't holding the mic right up against my face. But then, slowly you learn all the little things.
Yeah.
How'd you find it? I'm sure you've talked about your first time ad nauseum on this podcast, so I don't want to retread it if you've...
Yeah, no, it went well. Like, I won like $200 and it was kind of...
Oh,
like,
nice. Jesus Christ.
I was like... Okay, because it was like, for me, it was like a bucket list thing, and it was like the same as you mentioned, where it didn't seem like within a realm of possibility.
Yeah.
And then I heard podcasts of people in Australia like doing open mics. I was like, oh, you can just get up and do it. But I was in Mackay, so there was no open mics until someone started one.
Right.
And then I got to do it, and it went well.
How'd you win $200?
It was a comp. It was
a competition. It wasn't a punter went, you know what? You just changed my life.
Yeah.
Here's $200.
Yeah. No, it was a competition, which is crazy because like for a first open mic competition, like $200 is a lot.
Yeah.
For a prize, and there was only like 4 other people. I was going up against, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like after that. Like going well for the first time, I was like, okay, I could do this again, kind of thing. So I feel like if I didn't go well, I probably wouldn't have tried again.
Yeah, same. Yeah. You hear about the people that are like, oh, that guy bombed for a decade and then he became great and now he's on Netflix. It's like, how do you have that self-belief to just die constantly and still keep getting up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what like made coming to like Brisbane so brutal. Like I moved to Brisbane for comedy.
When do you move?
April 2022. So coming up to 3 years. And then once I moved here, that's when I was like, because in Mackay I was doing well. I was like, oh man, I'm pretty good at this. And I come here where there was people that had been doing it for ages. Like, oh, I'm not good at this at all. And it really humbled me. I was like, oh fuck, this is tough.
Yeah. But were you doing a job there? You left the job to come here? What was the situation? So you're like, I left my wife and kids.
Yeah. Nah,
How old are you?
I'm 28.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, at the time, I was like living at my parents, studying, and then I finished up my degree. So I kind of stayed at my parents for a bit, saving up money to like. The plan was always to move to Brisbane.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But then, I did a Townsville heat, won that for Raw, and then they flew me to Brisbane for the state finals. Mm-hmm. So going to that, I was like, there's a scene here. This is sick. So then, like, literally a month after the state finals, I moved here. Like, things just kind of, like, lined up. Like, someone was like, hey, I have a place. I had, like, a few grand saved up, quit my job, moved here without a job. And
nice. Yeah. What was your job?
Just, like, a camera shop kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. And did you find a job here easily, or was it tricky?
It was tricky finding a good job. I feel like in Brisbane there's a lot of bullshit jobs, especially on Seek. Like a lot of it ends up being sales or cold calling in some way.
Yeah,
that the listing doesn't quite say that.
Yeah.
So like I got my first job was like a digital marketing job, and I was like, I made it. I'm using my degree. Then I was I was actually cold calling.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Are you ready to get yelled at constantly by strangers?
And then I moved to debt collection, which was actually better.
Really?
Like I found that better than the cold.
You were like Dog
businesses.
the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. But I couldn't do that for them that long either.
Did you have a weapon?
Oh, it was just like over the phone.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
Not, I thought it was literally.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Just going to people's.
Yeah. You owe Timmy $5.
Yeah, you owe Telstra $50.
Yeah, literally. I was like, I don't know, is that legal here? Because they have bounty hunters in America. It's a thing. Yeah.
I know there's like repossession for like higher cars and like bigger debts like cars and stuff.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But it's all over the phone.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, or we'll put a default on your credit listing. But yeah. So then you said it was like 6 months. You went on holiday, so it was like 6 months before your next gig.
Yeah.
How did like the next gig go?
It went okay.
Yeah.
So I took the things that worked in that first gig, kind of worked on a little bit, and then the next stretch of gigs, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, they went okay. They went pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think before each one, I ate a Nutri-Grain bar. Just, I don't know why. I'd done it in the first couple of ones. And then, I guess semi-superstitiously, I was like, all right, I better eat a Nutri-Grain bar before each gig. So I did that for like the first 20 gigs I did.
Yeah.
Eventually realized how many carbs are in those Nutri-Grain bars. And you're like, Jesus Christ. I better switch this up. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, nice.
Yes.
And then, so yeah, I guess after like started doing well, stopped eating the Nutri-Grain bars, started doing well.
Yeah.
I guess what was like the progression the first year of stand-up for you?
Yeah, so the first year was all in Brisbane, and I was super excited when I got a small, like a 4-minute set working. Mm-hmm. And I did Raw the first year. So Raw I did when I came back, I imagine, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I got to the semifinals the first year in Brisbane, and that was exciting. That felt like, all right, here's some kind of competition infrastructure that's there that says that I might have some ability in this, which is handy because otherwise you're just kind of paddling around in the middle of nowhere, not knowing, well, like any other thing, like any job or whatever, you have like progression and you can measure it and you can see skills improving. Whereas with anything artistic like this, it's more amorphous, right? You can't really put your finger on it. So it can be tricky to nail down whether you're good at it, whether you're improving. Yep. So having something like Raw there to kind of say, okay, you are getting better at this or whatever is handy. Yeah. Did you find that with Raw?
Yeah, with Raw, I guess for me the progression was I did the state final the first year doing comedy. Then I came back and only made it to the semifinals. So I was like...
You're like, I'm getting worse.
Yeah, but no. So I guess I was really bummed like the second year of doing it. Yeah. I was like, I didn't make it as far as I did the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Raw's good because it like kind of... I feel like it's... With those rules and stuff, it's really good in terms of getting you to tighten up your material.
Yeah.
Like having it within that 5 minutes and things like that and being able to get like judges' feedback.
Yeah. And also the fact that when you're new, you're just tempted to just try different gags or whatever, constantly changing things up. And Raw makes you focus on one 5-minute set for the year.
Yeah.
Which is what you should be doing at that stage anyway. So in a way, it kind of, even without Raw being there, the effect of it is that you work on material longer, which is a good outcome, you know?
Yeah, but before I did Raw, like in my first 6 sets I did, I was like, I have 2 5 minutes. Thinking I had 2 solid 5 minutes. But no, because like I hadn't had enough time to hone any of those jokes.
Yeah.
So I have 10 minutes, but it's not good or refined in any way.
Yeah.
And I think some people get really caught up on doing like the same 5 for a year. But I feel like when you're starting out, like that's the way
100%
to get good.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes ages to get a good 5-minute set. And your best 5-minute set is always changing, right? Like in like 8 years into it now, my best 5-minute set today is different to my best 5-minute set last year.
Yeah.
And that's because the things you write, they shift, they change with you, and also all your jokes aren't going to be of the same quality.
Yep.
So you'll write a gag that's maybe better than the other things you have, and suddenly that's weaker than this stuff, you know? So the idea that if from when you started to now you've written a certain amount of material, well, that's kind of like in increasing quality, right? So the latest material will typically be the one that has maybe the most promise, whereas stuff from years ago can also be good to like revisit when you have more experience and be like, let's see if I can crack this premise with a better approach, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to never completely scrap things and just kind of keep it archived and go back to it a little bit later, because there might be like a piece of the puzzle that you've figured out now.
Yeah. And you go back through and you find, okay, most of this is complete garbage.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's an inkling of an idea. And you go, okay, 7 years ago me was onto something, but then didn't know what he was onto. And now I might be better equipped to unpack it. Yeah.
And 8 years in, how do you, like when you get offered like a 5-minute spot?
I'm doing one tonight. Are you coming to Newmarket?
No.
All right.
What are you, like, what's your go-to? Like, how do you go about getting a 5? Is it mostly like newer stuff, or you throw like some older stuff in there?
Yeah, well, for open mics now, I do all newer stuff. Just stuff like the new stuff I'm working on, which will be part of a bigger like show. It's difficult to. So now I'm working on the new hour, and it's the first like themed hour that I'm gonna build. The last 2 festival runs I did like compilation of gags kind of hours, whereas this is the first one. I'll try to kind of thematically tell a story or do something like that. And the tricky part of that is going to be to tell that in piecemeal bit. Yeah, so I'll go and I'll do something that might live from minute 35 to minute 40 in the show, and so it won't have the context of all the build-up for it, but then the gags themselves, I feel like they should be able to live on their own as well, and I'll get to test that here, and then over the course of any trial shows I do and the festival run and whatnot, I'll get to actually sharpen up the overall like hour itself. So that'll be what I'll try to do, like, say, tonight.
Yeah, cool. I guess, like, doing the trial shows and things like that is when you do figure out, like, the through line and the overarching kind of...
Yeah. And it's different for everyone. Like, some people, their first show they write will be, like, storytelling, thematic, or whatever. But for me, I was most drawn to just, set up, punchline, tag. So I didn't have any story that extended more than like 30 seconds in the first couple of hours I did. And it's fun, it's good, but it'll be good to try to, stretch my comfort zone a little bit and mess around with telling a longer story and hopefully not feel like I'm bombing the whole time I'm telling it. Yeah, that'll be interesting. What about you? Are you going to do any like split shows or anything? What's the longest you've spent on stage till now?
25 minutes is
nice.
the longest I've done.
That's ages. Yeah. 3 years in. That's massive. When did you do that?
I did it last year for Adelaide Fringe.
Nice. You did a split with someone else?
Yeah, I did a split with Daniel Neville. So, and then the first split I did was with Josh Coutinho, Daniel Neville, and I. So it was like 15 each kind of thing.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah, I guess every year I've tried to like push it to like what's the next thing.
Yeah.
I think maybe doing like another split bill again. I kind of want to look at. I know at some point I should be like, all right, I need to just do an hour.
Yeah, but that's like closer to like year 5, year 6.
Yeah.
You got some years for that, I reckon. Yeah. How did it feel to do that 25? Did it feel like this is very different to doing like 5-minute sets, for example?
Yeah, I think that was the turning point I think that actually made me better at stand up because I remember doing the first time I did it, 5 minutes in, I was like, fuck, I still have 20 minutes. But then suddenly everything just clicked. Like, I think, especially after like the 15-minute mark, I think that's where you really ease into being on stage.
Yeah.
And like being comfortable. And I think after that, I was able to just replicate that comfortability.
Yeah.
Like in other sets and things like that. So, yeah, doing the 25 minutes on stage was definitely something that I'd like to do more of.
Yeah, nice. Like those longer sets typically, when you're starting out and you've never done, say, 20 minutes, it feels like a massive chunk of time. But as you're saying, when you settle into it and get comfortable with it, it actually feels like it goes quicker than you anticipate when you think about how much you might have poured over a 5-minute set. So when you do an hour, you'll be like, okay, I need to say all these things, and then the first handful of times you do it, one of those times you might feel like it's gone by faster than you expected. But yeah. Are you gonna do a split in coming festivals?
I don't have any future festival kind of plans. I guess because I did Adelaide just to like experience it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But lost so much money.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah.
I guess, that's part of it. But I was like, fuck. And at the moment, I'm like in between work. So I'm like, I'll worry about that stuff a little bit later on.
Yeah.
I think I need to do something. I was talking to someone the other day about just booking a venue here in Brisbane. I'm like, fuck it, let's just do a split show.
Yeah.
And like doesn't need to be like a part of a festival.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get that stage time.
Yeah, and it's cheaper than flying to Adelaide, paying for a comm, this, that.
Yeah, and they're, like you're more likely to buy tickets because like friends and things like that here too. Like,
yeah.
But I haven't been to Melbourne Festival. I'd love to just go. I was supposed to help out Aaron Gox last year and like get an artist pass kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just want to do that, like get an artist pass and like go to shows.
Yeah.
And do more of the hang more so than put on a show at Melbourne.
Yeah.
At this stage.
But yeah, definitely, it's worth doing that. And there's so many good shows on. It's good to just go absorb all that and maybe jump up into a 5-minute spot here or there in a showcase and participate in the festival that way before you go whole hog and put a show on.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
And were you like about 5 or 6 years in when you did your first hour?
Yeah, I would say I was like 5.5 years in. 5-6 years in, and I did the first hour, and I kind of did it in Sydney first. So then the advantage of that was I could do the child shows, do the festival, and then when next festival rolled back around, now all the other festivals other than Sydney, I could do that show again because I hadn't done it at any of the other festivals. Which it gave me like an extra year almost to work on it, which I needed. And then Did all of those, and then did a kind of... So the plan was always do a new show at Sydney, and then do last year's show, which you have worked on in the intervening months, at the other festivals. And so then took that show to Melbourne, did it, I think I did like 12 shows or 14 shows the first time I was in Melbourne, and then the second festival run last year, we did like maybe, I want to say, a week or so at Melbourne. And we're going to do a week again this festival, which is thrown together last minute, but I'm excited about it. It'll be different. It'll be storytelling and kind of messing around with ideas, hopefully. Because the way you write also shifts and changes, right? Like when you start out, you go, okay, what do they think is funny? And you try to write stuff around that. Oftentimes, the first 5 minutes anyone writes ends up being like really dirty and dark.
Yeah.
And that's because these are topics that already have tension built into them. And so comedy is about releasing tension in an unexpected way. So you do that, you go, here's a topic already fraught with tension. It's easier for me to release that tension rather than build that tension and then release it.
Yep.
And so you do that. And then a little while later you go, okay, what do I find funny, right? Rather than what will they laugh at? And you go, all right, these are the things I find funny. And then often it'll still be dark, dirty stuff because it's still about, how am I going to release that tension? And then you start to mess around with, for me, it took ages to write on stage. For the first 5 years, I would have a setup, punchline, tag, or whatever prepared, and I would have, okay, I'm going to do this bit, and this bit, this bit, and I'd go do that exactly verbatim on stage for years. And it worked well, but it wasn't until like year 6 or whatever that I went, okay, here's an idea I have. I'm going to go, and here's a punchline or a second punchline I have. I'm going to go talk about this idea on stage. So I'm going to go explore it and see if in the heat of the moment I end up writing something. And that was really handy as well, because now you're writing both on stage and off stage. And on stage, while you're in the pocket, in the flow, you've got your punchlines, but then you're kind of openly thinking about what else can go into the bit. Oftentimes, a lot of your favorite tags and riffs will come on stage. Do you find that?
I'm still, I have found like maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
I've said something just in the, like I wasn't actively looking to do that, but I just found I've said something just on stage, and then it worked really well, and I've just added that.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times, but I'm still like in the same kind of way in the, like your first 5 years, I'm still in that. Everything is pretty much verbatim. Everything's written before I get up on stage. Like I'm a lot of people like that I work with and stuff assume that I do crowd, like being a comedian. Everyone assumes that you do crowd work.
That's all they see on the TikTok.
Yeah,
and everything.
They're like, oh, someone would say this, and I'm like, no, I'm very not in the moment on stage. I think I'm trying to like I don't know, work on being in the moment, but I don't know. It is so terrifying to like the thought of going on stage with not much ready is scary, but I feel that's why I should probably
there's no need to rush into it as well, right? Being prepared, writing your bits, and then having those bits ready when you go on stage, that's very important. That's the first step. Sometimes newbies will be like way loosey-goosey about it and try to figure it out on stage. It's like, no, that comes later. That's, initially this is the setup, this is the punchline, this is how I'm going to work it.
Yep. Yeah, actually, there's a guy that started around the same time as me, and he for ages was just doing like just chopping and changing bits or doing mostly like riffy stuff on stage, and it never quite worked. And once he started to just have like well-written stuff prepared, that's when he just started to skyrocket and do really well.
Yeah.
In the scene. So I think it is important to do that when starting out. So.
Yeah. Social media has made everyone think it's all crowd work and this, that. But, you sit and you watch a really good Netflix special or whatever. And, you sit and watch whoever it is, Mulaney, Hannibal Buress, all these guys. 99% of it, there's like no crowd work in it, right? It's all bits. It's all bits that have been refined and refined and refined over the course of hundreds of performances into this work. And so, that's I feel that's the most important thing. I'd love to do more crowd work, get better at it, all that kind of stuff, but it's still on the back burner compared to like taking a bit and seeing it through and having it become the best version of itself, if possible,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that like crowd work is, because I guess the whole point of crowd work, right, and filming it is that it's like you're not burning material.
Yeah.
But now there's just so much crowd work.
Yeah.
That I feel like it's hard to even break into that, like with clips online now.
Yeah. And also, the gag has to be way less good if it's crowd work, because the spontaneity of it is like a magic trick in the room, and people are... So if you do a 4 out of 10 gag off the cuff while talking to someone in the crowd, you'll get a bigger response than if you do an 8 out of 10 gag that's pre-written.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the gag was better, right? And that doesn't mean that this should be bottled up and presented as a show or whatever. It's a trick in the room. It's good, but I think it shouldn't detract from the pursuit of writing stronger material. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you said with your first attempt at Raw, you made it to the semi-finals.
Yeah.
And then how did the next...
So I went to the state finals the next time.
Yep.
Then went to the national finals the third time. Have you done the third Raw?
No, so my third Raw is coming up. My last attempt is coming up next month. So
exciting. Which heat are you in?
I'm in Heat 7.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know who's in Heat 1? I'm going to see if I can just go and hang out and watch Heat 1.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But I do like seeing the first heats of Raw.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like crazy shit as well. There's a lot of people that see it and want to give it a go, which is great. But then there's also...
And they've never done stand-up.
They've never done stand-up. They'll wear... I've seen people wear like roller skates on the stage and like wear costumes and do raps. It's like...
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
The first lots of heats are always good to watch.
Yeah, for sure. It's like those American Idol...
Legit.
Yeah.
That's like, as a kid, I'd only watch the first lot of the American Idol episodes and then drop off because I'm like, I don't care about people actually singing well.
Yeah. We're all here for the freak show.
If that was the whole show, I would have watched the full season.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean semifinals? Now everyone's good at singing. Who cares? That's terrible. I want to see a guy try and swallow 17 spiders or something. No? He's like, yeah, America's Got Talent. It's like, just insane shit. Yeah.
So yeah, the third attempt. And how many years in was that?
So just every year.
So like third year, I guess.
Yeah. And that was fun. I got pipped at the post by my buddy Fatty Kassab. Have you met Fatty?
No.
He's a good guy, but also a son of a bitch for taking the prize, the grand prize, the number one prize. You get flown to Edinburgh to participate in the Fringe over there. and you get to be part of the biggest fringe festival in the world. And number 2, you get a bouquet of flowers. What a drop off in reward. And
not even a gift card.
And my bouquet was it was pretty big bouquet, but then too big for me to take on the plane. So I just left it for my Airbnb guy. And I was like, thank you for letting me stay in your Airbnb. And I took the thing that said like runner-up on it or whatever.
You should have.
You're the runner-up Airbnb.
Yeah, you should have been like regards, runner-up.
But yeah, no, it was fun. And a lot of people get stressed about Raw and like winning Raw, this, that, all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, regardless of what happens with Raw, whether you make it a national final or not, the practice of focusing on a bit for a long time is in itself kind of a big reward from Raw. Yeah. So, and then for the people in the national final as well, whether you win it or if you don't, you still get the clip from it regardless, So
yeah, I feel like that'd be like a bit of like adding to like your comedy resume, right?
Yeah,
I feel like it'd be a lot easier to be booked in interstate and stuff if you said like it'd be a lot easier to introduce yourself being like, hey, I was a national finalist.
Yeah, I think it helps a little bit. It definitely gave me the boost I needed to move to Sydney. I thought, why not? On the back of this, let me try to... Because otherwise, I don't think I would have ever tried to move to Sydney, And then moving to Sydney opened up a lot of different opportunities of their own. So it ended up being a good outcome like that. But I think, I think a big part of it is just the additional confidence of having done okay, and then it kind of feels more real rather than, just playing at the local mics and then you're not sure if you're getting better or worse. So it's good to have some infrastructure around it without getting too caught up in how well you're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so what were some of the opportunities you got when in Sydney?
So I started playing the rooms there, slowly got, like we don't really have like a past or anything kind of system here, but like getting to play those rooms, getting to know those room runners. And then eventually I got an agent, and then I did the festivals. And so it kind of, it was a progressive thing that, eventually I played the store, and all that kind of slowly culminated bit by bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Would you move to Sydney or Melbourne? Is that on the horizon for you?
I think so eventually.
Yeah.
For a while there I was thinking... For ages, I thought Sydney, but now I'm thinking maybe Melbourne.
Melbourne's cheaper than Brisbane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, way cheaper than Sydney. Brisbane just became more expensive than Melbourne. And Melbourne's got hundreds of more probably opportunities comedy-wise. So, and there's the festival, of course.
Yeah.
And of course you can go down for like a week or 2 weeks during the festival, but if you already live there, then you're there for the whole festival.
Yep.
Pretty nice. And there's a lot of rooms. So I know some people that have moved from Sydney to Melbourne not too long ago. But there was a big exodus to Sydney from Brisbane around the time I left.
Yeah.
A bunch of people moved, and I think for pretty much all of us, it meant more opportunities, more stage time, more work. It feels like, there's a limit, there's a level of number of gigs you can do per week in certain cities, and then, in Sydney and Melbourne, I think you have the most stage time as of now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think even for me moving to a city where there's more stage time, just to get the more practicing rather than like, I don't know, going in and being like, moving there and being like, oh, this is where I'm gonna make it. It's more just like, oh, this is a good place to learn.
Yeah,
there's like more opportunities, and obviously like, then from there, like there might be other opportunities open up too. But I think it's, just the experience to learn and just get up on stage more.
Yeah,
would be good.
Absolutely. That's it's also a thing that if you move to a different city, you're already at a certain level of experience or whatever, so they don't see you as a newbie. Whereas if you're in the city that you start, you're kind of always a little bit seen as the fresh, doughy-eyed, bright-eyed newcomer, you know? So there's that benefit of moving cities as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. And what made you moved back to Brisbane last year, was it?
Yes. Yeah. To spend some more time with the grandparents and hang out. And I was planning to move overseas in February, but that's changed, and it'll be more towards the end of 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, sweet. Because you were, I've talked to you about this before, but you're moving to America? Was it New York?
Yeah. New York, yeah.
Yeah.
So there, it'll be, again, starting from scratch, you know? They don't care what you've done overseas or what rooms you're passed at, where. They're like, whatever. You're starting from zero.
Yeah.
Enter the bucket and have 100 names in there and play the most dire open mics. And so it's a combination of a bit scary and nerve-wracking, but also it'll be exciting to, you still have the tread on your tire from having done it for this amount of time, and hopefully that holds you in good stead when you go to the new scene. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And so what was your worst bomb?
I was about 6 months in, and it was the first time anyone had kind of paid anything for me. They had paid for my hotel room in Sydney, and I was in Brisbane. So I flew to Sydney and stayed in the nice place they'd arranged. And I was opening for this South African comedian, Masood. I've become good friends with him now. And I was chatting to him about it the other day when he toured here again. And we were remembering me opening for him, and this was 6 months in. I have barely 4 minutes, all dirty material. I didn't know at the time, but he was a completely clean comedian, like never swears on stage, even to that level. Not just TV clean, but like fully clean. And everyone in the audience is like 70 years old, so they're there to reminisce about South Africa and kind of have warm, nostalgic comedy that's completely clean. And then I'm there opening for him, just being filthy, just to pin drop silence, just for 3.5 minutes straight, just complete silence. And I was so shook by it that the only job that I had, which was to say his name and bring him on, I forgot. And I started walking off stage. And he's in the wings going, say my name, say my name. And I was like, oh yeah, Masood. And I give him the microphone and I go and just collapse. And I was like, brutal. Yeah. Not good. Yeah.
And did you get to open for him when he was here recently?
Yeah. So I did a 20-minute spot this time around.
Yeah.
And it went better than last time.
It's good to have that redemption then, I guess.
Yeah.
Sweet. And so to wrap things up, what's next for you?
So hopefully what I'll be doing soon is I've finished taping and editing and color grading and everything on my special.
Oh, shit.
So we shot that in Sydney at the Comedy Store. and the editors have finished their work, the color graders have finished their work, and so now the next step is just to kind of figure out a way to release it. So I'll release that hopefully not too far away from now. It'll be called K Suraj Suraj, so check that out. And other than that, doing the festivals, working on that new hour so that I have as much like ammunition as possible when I look to move to America at the end of the year.
Yeah, right.
That's the plan.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram, just, Suraj Kolarkar. I'm the only Suraj doing comedy in Australia, so you should be able to find me. Facebook, because I'm old and, nobody uses Facebook anymore. It's quite upsetting. It used to be the main thing back in the day. And then, anything else? Trying to make more online content and appease the algorithm gods. So hopefully that happens.
Need to do more crowd work.
That's it.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.